Oh, my name is Alistair McGrath, and I'm a professor of theology in London and England, and for many years I studied the natural sciences in Oxford. I became an atheist, a very committed, a very aggressive atheist, when I was about 16 years old. And I think the factors that brought me to that decision were several. One was, it seemed to me very obvious that the natural sciences did away with God. My family was slightly baffled, and I have to say, I'm sure I seemed to be very, very arrogant. After all, what does a 16-year-old know about anything? But when I was 16, I didn't see it like that. But of course, this was the late 1960s, and religious tension was quite significant in Northern Ireland, which is where I grew up. I think I began to argue, look, if there was no religion, there'd be no religious tension, there'd be no religious violence. So get rid of religion and the world's a better place. And so those things came together, and I think they really made it very, very clear to me that atheism was the only option for a thinking person. I think one of the big changes in my life was when I went up to Oxford University to study chemistry and began to reflect on some of the questions I had, I think, really not examined properly while I was younger. I think I began to realize that having a deeper understanding of the philosophy of science made it much more difficult to be an atheist. And I began to realize that atheism did not have the intellectual resilience I once thought it had. I think more than that, I was beginning to talk to other Christians and read books. I'm beginning to realize that actually Christianity was much more interesting than I had realized. And so in my first year at Oxford, I just made this transition from atheism to Christianity. And having made that transition, I began to realize that bringing my interest in the sciences and my interest in the Christian faith together was going to be a very important part of my life. The thing that made me reconvert to Christianity was a realization that Christianity made sense of things, that it gave you a sort of lens that brought things into sharp focus. And it wasn't as if I had emotional needs. I need God to love me, or I need some kind of security in my life. My conversion, I think, was purely rational and intellectual. I think that one of the most important things I've discovered about Christianity is that it is rational. It does make sense. It's very satisfying intellectually. But that is, if you like, only one of its many aspects. And as I grew older, I discovered spirituality. Christianity has a lot to say there. I discovered the life of the imagination, writers like C.S. Lewis. Christianity has much to say there. And I think what I'd want to say to people is, look, you begin your Christian life, or you're living your Christian life, and there is more that needs to be discovered. And that's good for you, but it's also good for the people you're talking to about your faith. Because for many people, the big question in life isn't what makes sense of things. It's a relational question. Who is there who I can trust? Or it might be a question about security. Where is my true destiny? Who journeys with me as I go through life? All of those are engaged richly and satisfyingly by the Christian faith. But sometimes I think we don't really appreciate the full richness of the faith. And that's something we need to discover.